welcome to the People Are People podcast, Life Lessons Learned in Real Time. I am your host, Lexi Mahari. I want to start by thanking you for taking the time today to give your ears over to my personal thoughts about life, people, and the lessons each one has to offer. In episode 1, I thought I might begin by inviting you to go on a journey with me as I join the Great Resignation of 2021. Now, full transparency. My podcast will not only focus on this topic, but it will be an involving component of my podcast from time to time. And I will share the results with you along the way. This podcast, in fact, is my effort to share my experiences with people like me who have been working for more than 30 plus years now, who are reevaluating what it takes to make them happy in life. Just a little bit about me. I have been working since the age of 14. That's right. Don't worry, there weren't any child labor laws broken. In fact, I've had a summer job every year through college. I received work-study funding while in college, and after college, I maintained a steady full-time job, sometimes two, as a nurse in a variety of settings, including the corporate world until now. Today, in addition to my full-time job, I do a bit of freelance writing on the side as a content blogger or ghostwriter for other blogs. I really enjoy it. It's my hobby that pays. And amazingly, I somehow decided to torture myself by going back to school to pursue a doctoral degree, just as a personal aspiration of mine, not because I have so much money to burn to do so at this time. I am a mother of an amazing toddler girl, and recently I decided to start a podcast. After tossing and turning about what it is I have to say to the general world for more than a few years, I finally decided to focus on something associated with life lessons, share my opinion about other people, and hey, why not start by sharing my journey with you through this great resignation process. So, according to Forbes.com, American workers are quitting their jobs more than any other time in the last 20 years, which I find to be amazing. Many of us took refuge in the work that we were doing during the pandemic as a worthy and necessary distraction. However, according to this Forbes article, people are deciding to quit their jobs in record numbers for a variety of reasons now. Some people are seeking improved wages. Others are looking for, to take advantage of those sign-on bonuses that are floating out there, incentives. Others, maybe you're looking at this from a more philosophical standpoint. Maybe, for example, the fragility of life. We've all kind of made our way through a very traumatic event that took place in 2020. And so it's caused us all, I would suspect most of us, if not all of us, to kind of recontemplate life and whether or not, for example, we want to spend the next 10 to 20 years in the same job or in the same career field. Other people are leaving because they're in search of growth. I think last year some parents were forced to choose between their kids and the workplace as they had to educate their kids at home. And for some of us, like me, I'm just re-examining what it means to be happy in the workplace. Additionally, ensuring that mentally I am healthy, happy, and stable with what I do. I think sometimes if we stay in the same place or same role too long, or try to force ourselves to live up to some standard as it relates to employment, we definitely place ourselves at great risk for burnout, depression, and isolation. Unfortunately, as I've done some research as relates to the Great Migration or Great Resignation, I think migration just because people are changing jobs, but some people are truly resigning from what it is they do on a day-to-day. So unfortunately, as I look for stories out there about the Great Resignation for people like me in their mid-40s deciding to leave their careers, Aside from those who are well funded and frankly, these people who are clearly stable enough to take the leap, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of things out there. So I thought I might, share my journey with other people like me who maybe are not super well funded. And let's say, for example, they weren't making $1 million as a CEO of some company, or they may not have $1 million in their 401ks just yet. Or even be close to that, I thought I'd share this journey with you. I have to say, hats off to the young folks in their 20s and 30s who are fearless and daring to take the leap. And I welcome everyone, every one of you, to my podcast and hope that, again, you might learn something from my experience as well, no matter your age. So, something else I wanted to say about, the whole search process of finding people like me who are trying to quit their jobs is, there's just a huge gap out there, right, of the average everyday person. I did come across an article where I saw where one woman managed to quit her job and she started a jewelry business online. And I think she's now doing some selling or participating in some events where she's able to sell her jewelry. But a lot of the people that I saw, that popped up in my feed on YouTube are people who have had YouTube channels and podcasts for the last couple of years. So, they've got a healthy footprint in social media, again, whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, or even in the podcast space. So, if you know anything about social media, then you understand that their income potential is healthy. And so, as someone with a side hustle in the social media space, you know that these people are pulling in a sizable amount of income. It may not be substantial and it may or may not pay their mortgage, for example, or their rent, but it is a income that is enough to supplement their income. No, it may not replace their salary. In some instances, it may exceed their salary, but the fact that they have a healthy footprint in the social media space is worth mentioning. I, on the other hand, am just getting started. And so I am excited to see, where this leads me and excited to be able to share with you, what those results are. So I guess I should add another layer of transparency to those of you who are still listening to this podcast. First of all, Lexi Mahari is a pseudonym. She is my alter ego. And I am choosing to embrace this alter ego of mine because A, she's somewhat fearless. B, though someone might inevitably recognize my voice, they won't know my name or the organization at which I currently work. And finally, I like the name. I mean, Lexi Mahari. Doesn't that sound a little Hollywood? Okay, I'm not trying to be Hollywood, but I kind of look at Lexi Mahari as being my rebirth. And I put this name together after doing some research on names. Lexi is of Greek origin and means defender of man. And Mahari, I saw, came across as from two origins, African and Indian. And it has multiple meanings, including divine maiden, one who forgives, and forgiver. And so the combination of these names really appealed to me because essentially I am on a forgiving mission, whether I am looking to forgive all the things I perceive that others have done, or through my own personal journey of forgiveness of myself for decisions that I may have made. And so, I'm hoping again to be able to share these lessons learned and that I might be able to pull others along the way with me. So let's shift gears. So I have decided to participate in the Great Resignation, as I've stated. So what am I feeling about this decision? I must tell you that I am juggling multiple emotions about this decision. You see, I have been with my company for almost 20 years. I have seen a lot of people come and go, a lot of people that I really enjoyed working with. Some maybe not so much. I'm sure the feelings were mutual. But until 5 years ago, I still thought that this was perhaps one of the greatest places to work. I mean, there was never a dull day. I never got bored. Always a new challenge, new adventure, whether I was purposefully seeking out stretch opportunities or just simply doing my day to day job. But, change is change, and it tends to rear its head at the most inconvenient times. I like to say that sometimes it comes disguised with buzzwords like redesign, next generation, transformation, innovation. I'm sure you've all heard these words over the years if you've been with a company long enough. However, you probably also know that buzzwords do not always translate into results, right? And so sometimes you can feel like you're just on the hamster wheel, not really getting anywhere. The saying, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it is real. Listen, I can roll with change with the best of them. Change is the one thing that makes the world go around, but change that is executed poorly can demolish the morale of your workplace and even your strongest workers. And I have witnessed it and I have experienced it, unfortunately. Um, you know, I'm not sure if it's commonplace these days, but just to give you a sense of the change that I've endured over the last 2 years, I have had 6 different managers in the last 2 years. And so within that change, I went from being a high performer or being seen as a high performer by people who managed me for more than 3 months because we literally were talking multiple changes every 3 months at one point. So I went from being seen as a high performer by leaders who had worked with me for more than a year to being, quote, rated as being average because I had no existing relationships with people. And your ability to get in there and make an impression with someone who's been managing a team of others for multiple years can be very difficult. I mean, you literally probably would have to save an organization $1 million to make a splash, right? So for me, I kind of struggled with that. I am a high performer. I hold myself to, a set of expectations that I always try to meet. But yeah, so I kind of struggled with that. But hey, ego aside, and yes, that is ego. I've also had to kind of endure moving from being an autonomous worker, to someone who's trusted in what they do, to being micromanaged. And so, again, for someone who's been doing this for like 20 years, it can be a bit much, right? Um, so, yeah, those are some of the reasons that I've, been contemplating participating in the Great Resignation. But there were 2 straws that broke the camel's back. I'll save my signs for another podcast, right? Because if you are someone who's ever contemplated walking away from your job, it is likely that you have asked the universe to give you some signs that it's time to move on. But we're going to save that for another podcast. But in my case, there were 2 straws that broke the camel's back. Several positions that supported my place at my organization were eliminated. And as a result, I basically, in essence, inherited the work of 2 other positions on top of my work as a leader within an organization. And if you've ever managed people, then you know that that in and of itself is truly a full-time job, and your ability to be an effective manager rapidly diminishes when you're picking up additional duties. You really aren't even managing the people or the processes anymore. You're literally just doing multiple jobs. You get put in reaction mode and you're not able to be proactive and really make a difference. Additionally, I did see my team shrink as a result of the beginnings of that great resignation or the great resignation that's underway right now. And so there were positions that just never were replaced as people left. So, these things combined just really had started to weigh on me, and physically, mentally, it's just been a lot, over the last couple of years. And so after 20 years of working with my company, 30 years of working for someone else, I've decided to take the leap and go into business for myself. So, what steps am I taking? I have spent the last several weeks knocking out medical and dental checkups. I am taking steps to medically clear myself ahead of the resignation, right?